Hey everyone. In the last video, we covered the most common blockchain consensus mechanism, which is proof of work. We illustrated it through Bitcoin. Today, we'll cover proof of stake, an alternative consensus mechanism. Ethereum, which is another leading blockchain protocol, is based on proof of work today, but is expected to move to proof of stake in early 2022. And already today, you'll find several other blockchain protocols that achieve consensus through proof of stake. I think the best way to understand proof of stake is to compare it to proof of work. So let's focus on the left-hand side here. Remember that in Bitcoin, which follows proof of work, there are a group of miners who compete to be the first to solve a cryptographic puzzle and produce a valid block. The submitted block is verified by validators, and if they decide it's valid, the block gets added to the Bitcoin blockchain. The miner who submitted that block gets a reward of 6.25 freshly minted Bitcoin, which at today's prices is around $200,000. So it's a pretty high upside for good behavior. But mining is expensive, both in terms of upfront hardware costs and in energy costs required to keep mining. So this handsome reward is important to incentivize miners to set up and operate mining, provide more hash power to the Bitcoin network, thus increasing its security. But what about the downside of bad behavior? Both for miners and validators, the downside is pretty low in the proof of work world. If you're a miner proposing a bad block or a validator attesting a bad block, it's unlikely to succeed in the first place. But beyond the incremental energy cost of the wasted effort, there really isn't much downside. You just go ignored in a way. So it's expensive to get started as a miner. There's high upside for good behavior, but a low incremental downside for bad behavior. Now let's get to proof of stake, and let's illustrate that through what Ethereum will most likely transition to next year in 2022. Here also, you'll have a group of block creators, but they're different from miners in a few ways. They don't compete to solve any puzzles. They're chosen randomly in proportion to how much of the native cryptocurrency they stake. That's a heavy sentence. What do we mean by it? Ethereum's native cryptocurrency is ETH. Say I have 100 ETH today. I decide to stake or lock up 40 ETH to become a validator. And say all the other network participants also decide to lock up some portion of their ETH so that the total staked ETH in the world becomes 40 million ETH. My 40 ETH constitutes 1/1,000,000th of the total staked ETH in the world. So that means I have about a 1 in a million chance of being selected to propose the next block. Now, if I'm selected, I go and pick transactions and propose a block. And some others in the network who have their ETH staked become validators. And if 2/3 of them decide that my block is valid, it gets added to the blockchain. The rewards in this are pretty low. In fact, the only reward here is in the form of interest on the ETH that I stake, which is around 5% today. And as the total stake pool in the world increases, the interest will reduce even further. But hey, that's okay because it's easy to get started. It's not expensive. There are no mining operations required. All you need is a computer. But what about the downside of bad behavior? If I propose or attest a bad block, what could happen? Well, I could lose my entire staked ETH, which is a pretty serious cost. So the summary here is that it's easy to get started, has a low upside for good behavior, but a high downside for bad behavior. For you to explore further, I'll provide some helpful links in the description. But let me also leave you with two big questions to form your viewpoint on. These are hotly debated between the proof of work and proof of stake communities. Number one, which of these mechanisms is more decentralized? The proof of work camp may say that, hey, in proof of stake, the rich get richer. The more ETH you have, the more of the incrementally produced ETH you will have. The proof of stake community may respond that no, actually the rewards are pretty small and don't lead to serious concentration of wealth. In fact, Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, says as much in a recent blog post which I've linked to in the description. Further, one can even criticize a proof of work camp that it's quite expensive to get started as a miner, and that's not friendly for decentralization. Question 2. Which of these is more secure? Proof of work is secured by total hash power. To attack it, you'd have to corner 51% of the total hash power out there. In Bitcoin's case, that's prohibitively expensive. I actually came into this article thinking that proof of work would win pretty cleanly here, but I'm not so sure now. Remember that proof of stake attaches a pretty high downside to bad behavior, where you could lose your total staked amount. The right way to make this comparison is through a cost to benefit ratio of an attack or bad behavior. Do refer to Vitalik Buterin's post, which I've linked to in the description, entitled Why Proof of Stake. He makes a strong case for why proof of stake actually wins out in this ratio, why it's more costly to attack. I'd love to read a convincing rebuttal from the proof of work community, but I haven't been able to find one yet. I'd love it if you can share in the comments section links to any articles that you found helpful in comparing the security of proof of work and proof of stake. Alright friends, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like the video and do subscribe to the channel if you enjoy such content. And please share your feedback in comments. And I'd love it if you could spread the word about this channel. I'm trying to learn and share my understanding of blockchain fundamentals, devoid of price predictions and sensationalist news. This technology is fascinating to me, and I think it'll play a big role in the future. And we need more people to be knowledgeable about it and build on it. Thanks again.